Hey Reaper people, it's Ann coming to you live from Reaper Miniatures headquarters in glorious Denton, Texas. Gloriously overpriced Denton, Texas sometimes. Justin is nodding over there. No, yeah, it is. It's crazy that you could like live here or you could live in like Sacramento, California, and the pricing are the same for finding an apartment or a house.
That is the damn truth.
It is the damn truth. I actually looked at that. Various places because I was like, Denton is bloody expensive. And then I compared to some other expensive places in the U.S. and yeah, like, wow, it's crazy. It's probably because we're a college town. But anyway, that's where we are. We're in Denton, Texas. If you live in Texas and you didn't know Reaper was here, look, now you know. You are a very brief, relative brief. I mean, Texas can last 8 hours to get across by car, but relatively brief drive to ReaperCon on Labor Day weekend. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, good morning. Chat room, are you there? Like, I'm not seeing chat room. Chat room, hello, say hello, please. I've got nobody.
Yeah, I have to reset it.
Oh no, Justin forgot to reset you, chat room.
No, the internet dropped on the laptop for a second.
Oh, all right. Well, see, I didn't say any highs or hellos, and I felt so lonely.
Oh, they've been saying hi.
So lonely. And I can't answer questions if I don't see them.
You're up.
Yay! I can see you all now. That's much improved. Cursed internet. Yeah, I'm with you, Silverthorn. Most of the time I do. Justin apparently just didn't think that, you know, he needed to share all the love with me. I'm very sad about this.
I wanted to keep it all to myself.
Yeah, Justin is really hogging the love today. So, hello. Hello, Shooter. Hi, Coos. Hi, Demetrius. Hello, Kaz. Hello, Silverthorn. Hello, everybody. All of the peeps, it's so good to see you. Yay, Overwatch League, Swillow. Awesome. Rock on. If only Dallas would actually look good for once. But anyway, no Overwatch. Although I did notice that one of the people that we hosted yesterday was also into Overwatch. It was the guy who was doing the GW minis and had cosplay items too, the props. Mm-hmm. He had a Mercy wing in his emotes. So I was like, yeah. Hey, Planer, how's it going? He was not protecting me. You guys are really nice to me. Generally, it's the only thing that like gets me like woohoo in the morning is coming up here and talking to y'all. Hog the Love sounds like a song from a terrible version of The Lion King. You mean the live version? Oh, I mean the CGI version? No. Actually, I had to sit through that on the airplane, last flight I had. And yeah, it wasn't as good, but it's not terrible. It's The Lion King, I guess. Good morning, Fraley. Morning. Yep, there you go. There's with the Dallas Fuel Swallow. Got it. I'm still hoping. They looked almost alive against the shock, so let's hope that there's some life there. Yeah, I have tickets to the opening weekend. I went with my boyfriend. He flew all the way from San Francisco to attend a Dallas Fuel game with me, which means he loves me. Yeah, good pick, huh? Yeah, same here. Yeah, Decay and Doha were both good, but Decay was a breath of fresh air. So good. Oh no, Plater, you're there, but it's Austria. I mean, gorgeous mountains, and it's Europe. I mean, how much trouble can they really get into? Still, sympathies. I know it must be hard. The only parallel in my own life I have is when I was a breeder of Shiloh Shepherds and had to give my puppies to their new owners. You know, that's the only time I've had to give one of my children away. Hey, Scott Beal. All right. Hey, Panache. Reaper Toolbox, RTB, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that's it. So, yeah, that's what RTB is, Panache. Technically, this is Reaper RTB Pro Tips.
Right, and I didn't want it to read like, you know, if you're looking up videos on YouTube or whatever, I'd rather you see an acronym for this show to give it a little more contrast.
Oh, right.
So it's easier to pick out of, was this Reaper
of all
Toolbox,
the other stuff. Because otherwise, Reaper Pro Tips can easily be how to play Reaper in Overwatch. Pro Tips.
Correct.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Anyway, Miss Ann, would you like to show us kind of what you're doing while I update the command?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to be working on Mr. Ogre again. Mr. Ogre. Oh no, Justin switched cameras on me and it was abrupt.
Haha, surprise.
So yeah, we're working on Mr. Ogre Juggernaut again. And I'm going to be doing copper because I decided that I would like to experiment with some copper on these shoulder pads just for you guys. And I also get to use a paint that we gave away in the giveaway yesterday, which is Scorched Metal 9125, which is a great dark copper. And then we're going to mess around with a bunch of different coppers today. all of the coppers, in fact. Technically, scorched metal is for heat effects on steel, but it also makes a nice like dark base for copper because it has the same sort of flake. And then we're going to mess around with a little bit of pearl white mixed into a couple of these. And maybe we'll do some verdigris. Yeah, Twisted Dome. I love my Shiloh Shepherds. I still own Kiri as a Shiloh Shepherd. She's a short-coated one. I prefer the short coats because they're easier to care for.
So are those your 4 primary colors you're using?
Of the metallics, yeah. I mean, we're going to throw in some verdigris colors. Verdigris colors once we get there. I'm going to throw the paint all over the model because it just makes sense, right? So some verdigris colors and, of course, copper verdigris. Peacock green looks really dark in this video, so I'm sorry, but it is a beautiful dark green with a heavy blue carry to it. So essentially, if you add white to peacock green, you get something very close to copper verdigris. It's a little bit different, a little bit greener. Copper verdigris has more of a blue shift. And then the cyan blue is because copper can go both ways. Oh, damn it, Daniel, thank you for the host. Yay.
The green looks pretty great, pretty great on my screen. Is what
Oh,
I'm trying
okay.
to say.
It looks. I'm looking at it up on the monitor, and it looks a little bit dark, but that's fine. Yep, painting party time. You got it, Comrade Corey. Actually, yeah, Future Ruble, you have it in one. Scorched Metal was my attempt to copy Tin Bits, right down to the purple shift. So if you want Tin Bits in a modern day version, here you go. It is yours. I also loved it when I used Games Workshop paint when I worked for them briefly. So yeah. Yeah, peacock green is pretty dark. It's just I can see the green here. I can't necessarily see it very easily up on the camera, but you guys know what color it is. Yay, yay for Reaper tracking and orders and things. So, all right, so we're going to do the shoulder pads up here, the big shoulder pads, I think, in the copper. Now, just like with the steel, you want to base coat with a solid color. I've base coated with green. No, peacock green is actually more of a blue-green. It's very heavily green. Copper verdigris is the one that has a bit more blue in it than green. Yeah, well, Painting Dog, if you ever want another bottle of very similar scorched metal. So some people base copper in green, and some people base copper in brown, and either one works. I really haven't noticed a difference. Like, people used to say that, well, if you base it in green, then it gives it kind of that green hint under it. But the fact is that if you get a good solid layer of metallic on top of it, you're going to cover that up anyway. Kind of the same thing with the Zenith highlight trick. If you're going to use it, you got to kind of work thin. So today I'm just I've got my Craptastic mixing brush to just put a base coat on. So I think I'm going to use my 9109 Ruddy Leather to base coat because it's a good coppery color. It's a bit dark. You could also use actual tarnished copper, the NMM Triad. As you can see, it's actually pretty close to Dragon Copper in color. It's just not a metallic. However, I do find 109 has good coverage, and tarnished copper, although it has good coverage, also has some more transparent pigment in it. So probably doesn't cover quite as well. Plus, the Ruddy Leather is darker, and as we all know, if we want a brighter metallic, we want to start darker. So I'm just going to put on my beautiful Ruddy Leather, which color I love, on top of our Bones Black. Hopefully I didn't thin it too much. I did wash this model, so hopefully that will counteract any beading that we may get from it being a little bit of a thinner base coat. But I don't like to switch up my painting style and have to use full strength paint, so I wash all my bones in hot water and dish soap. And I find that that means that I can use my usual base coat consistency on them and not have problems with the paint sticking. If the paint wants to get a little bit fussy, just make the paint a little bit thicker on that area, and it should be fine. There we go. And get the back part. No magnetic gumby. Actually, if you remember, silver metal yesterday, I started with a very dark gray, carbon gray. You could also use cloudy gray or stormy gray. But with copper, you still want to put a base coat of regular paint down for any metallic. And you want it to be darker rather than lighter. So medium to dark. I don't use black under golden or coppery colors just because putting black under anything that has a hint of yellow in it might give you greenish effects, and I don't want to chance that. For base coats, RK, honestly, it can go anywhere from 6 drops of paint to 1 drop of water to like 4 drops of paint to 1 drop of water, somewhere around there. 4 to 1 is what I usually give people because I usually work with 8 drops in my wells. If I'm working over bones, though, like I am today, sometimes I'll go a 6 to 1. I'll put 6 drops of paint in the well and 1 drop or brush full of water. I just want a little water. I like a little water to make it flow and self-level a little bit better. And I find that although our paint does work fine straight out of the bottle, adding just a touch of water does make it level better and gives you a smoother base coat. So, your mileage may vary, but that's what I find. All right, we'll let that dry. Maybe I'll do the other one also. Ooh, Discord server said we only need 126 more people for Planer to sponsor a giveaway for our show in the morning here. Yeah, there's probably mold lines, Albavasen or Albavasen. I don't bother cleaning mold lines on these models that I'm demoing for you because honestly, I'm never going to. This is not a model I'm going to finish for Reaper. This is a model that I grabbed, cleaned, and is purely for demo. So these guys don't actually get finished. Hey, Bryce, nice to see you. Do 1 green and 1 brown to see the difference? Sure, will do. Nice, good suggestion. Good suggestion from Bryce, who also, B. Kokenauer, also teaches at ReaperCon. You should catch one of his classes when he's there. So yeah, we'll do the other one for peacock green. You can also use just regular dark green, pine green. A warmer dark green is fine. So we'll do this one in green while the one in brown is drying, and then we'll put copper over both. Dark Knight Azareth. We don't have a plan for that right now. There was originally a possibility of, if we did do giveaways for the show, giving those away so that people could get their hands on an actual example model painted by me. But the problem with giveaways is they're so random, right? It could be just a person like logging in to want to get a free thing and not somebody who would actually value the painting example. Like they'd get a partially painted model and they'd be like, what the heck? This isn't useful. So I don't think we really, that and the fact that I actually am reusing these models, like I'm using these models for more than one thing, right, to demo more than one thing. So that's not really a feasible. So right now, I don't know what's gonna happen to them. They're just kind of sitting there going whatever. On my shelf, I have shelf spaces for all of them. But yeah, I mean, usually when artists do demo models at a convention, we all just chuck them afterwards, unless a student wants them. Here, my students are remote, so it's like, it's not as easy to just say, does anybody want this sucker? Plus, I wouldn't want to give anything away until I was certain I wasn't going to use it as for an example model again. That's the other problem, is how often I use a model is unpredictable. I could decide to do copper NMM on this one next and, need it in, 2 weeks. So yeah, those are all the things. But yeah, honestly, I don't, good prep work takes a long time, and I would much rather be just, grab and go for something that's not going to be finished in the gallery. Plus, a lot of the models that I grabbed aren't necessarily models. I mean, we might already have examples of them in the gallery, so. Nope, Ed doesn't have any of my models, my part painted models at all. Nope, it's a mold line, I'm sure. Oh yeah, Panache. Yeah, the bones don't need primer. Like, I can say that with absolute certainty. If I had any problems with rub off, I would change my tune on that, but in my experience, I've never yet had a bones model that I was painting. Once that paint is set, it is on there. So I do not feel the need. Whereas I have had problems and experienced, seen my paint clubbers have problems with priming bones. So I just avoid it on bones. That's just my philosophy. I know Rhonda has done, I like the demo models, sell them for Reaper bucks at ReaperCon. Yeah, that's a good idea, Bryce. That way they could find homes that actually want them. That's actually a great idea. Put them in the auction. You can even put them in little sets, depending on subject matter. And grab some more green and fill that in. There we go. All right, things are drying slowly today. It's been humid here. Doo-doo-doo. Aw. Reaper, you're so sweet, gifting a sub to Bryce.
I figure Bryce shouldn't be in our chat without a sub.
He needs the Reaper skull in front of him. Is that what you're saying?
Travesty. And thank you,
VO3318.
CVS, yes.
Don't feed priming trolls. You know what? Priming is always a hot topic in the miniature community, Comrade Corey. Like, now, it used to be just the battle of the black Primar army versus the white Primar army, but now it's gotten even worse, where it's now the airbrush Primar army, the non-Primar army, the specifically Steinelrez army, we're worse than 40K at this point, is what I'm trying to say. Worse than Warhammer 40K, all of our factions and split-offs and spin-offs. Oh my gosh.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
If you set up a box where
Yes.
if you took the lid off of said box, it would automatically fill the box with spray primer that you've placed inside, and you place a Bones mini inside, is the mini both primed and not primed at the same time?
Schrodinger's primer.
Yeah, is this
Yes.
Schrodinger's primed Bones mini? Or not primed
Yeah, I
Bones
would
mini?
not put the Bones model inside. I don't care if it's primed or not primed in an indefinite probability universe. I only care if it's primed in front of me or not primed. Yeah. Well, yeah, planar. But, anytime you have a hobby... Hey, Paul John's Life. Yeah, and the Grey Primar Army, which actually I'm a member of, but not for Bones. Anytime you have a hobby or anything that people invest a lot of their creativity and heart in, like that they really love, you're going to get this kind of polarizing debate. It is the nature of humans to seek to do an us and them scenario. Like, that's the sadness about human, like, the way we're hardwired. Yeah, Prime Don't Prime will rage for 3 days past Ragnarok. Yes, they're probably right.
Is that a technique you learned from Bug Lips, Quindy? It has to be.
Oh, rub dirt on your bones and prime only half the model? Yeah, it's got to be a Bug Lips technique. All right, let's get a starting layer on this sucker. I'm going to do it in a whole bunch of different ways. I think I'll do the scorched metal first and then bring it up on this lower part. I'll do the dragon copper on the upper part and see how we can play around with it. We're going to go like the opposite type of way that we did yesterday. We're going to actually try to layer up our metallics in different colors and then go back and do some weathering with verdigris. That's what we're going to try to do.
You know what I want to see, Ann? I want to see a unique take on priming. I don't want to see a prime or not prime. I want to see someone really think out of the box with what to do with it. You know what I mean? I want to see that argument in
What
socials.
do you want?
I want something unique.
Yes?
So I want a conversation on socials, not about priming or not priming, but serving the same function that isn't either of those things. I want something unique.
A new thing to debate about?
No. Same thing, just not either of those options. So, like, Quindy, she just rubbed dirt all over it and then painted it.
I see. So you just want, yeah.
That's a hot take.
It's something. Actually, you know what? I'll do this side too.
Perfect. Quindy is literally prime your bones with barbecue sauce. There we go, guys.
Yeah, my paint is not wanting to dry very fast. So today, I'm going to actually we'll do this. The problem, okay, not the problem, but one of the features, it's not a problem, it's a feature. So here's the deal with scorched metal, guys. Scorched metal, in order for it to look this dark and also be the correct color, essentially to shift it brown with this flake, it has to have a lot of black in its base. And the black pigment that we use for this actually gives it really good coverage. So for a metallic, scorched metal has amazing coverage. Point in case, I can paint it right over the bones and not see the bones gray under it. Ta-da, solid coat. So this has great coverage. What this means, though, is that you're not really going to be able to see a difference likely between the both sides that I do in the scorched metal, so just be aware. As I wait for my not primer to dry. Guess I could do the back side. This side is actually mostly dry. So let's just do this. Let's take some scorched metal and pop it on here. And yeah, you can use this as a dark bronze, but I like old bronze as a dark bronze a lot better. It's got a greenish hint to it, which this does not, because the flakes are entirely different. And that's why I say this is a better match for copper, is because the flakes are very similar between the two. So your underlying metallic, let's not prime with beer.
Fermentation as a basis for priming. See, that's outside of the box.
Prime your bones with ground down GW models. Damn it, Daniel, that's got to be the most expensive priming method I've ever
Holy crap,
conceptualized.
It would be, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. See, I like Future Rules idea. If you're going to boil your bones, you may as well boil them in a scented, or flavored water. That way, you add a little spice maybe. Put some cayenne pepper in there. All right. Let's see here. Let's do some dragon copper.
Oh, that's a mind twist. Thank you there, Quindy. She said, are we priming ourselves with beer?
Oh, dear. For certain activities, no doubt. Otherwise, the hold my beer thing wouldn't be a thing.
Certain activities. I have such social anxiety. Yeah. I have to get plastered before every show.
That explains so much.
I mean, why do you
Riot
think
54, Justin opened a keg of worms.
Why do you think my pants are missing?
Well, I just assumed that was the way you roll.
Oh, no, it's a product of the,
The inebriation that you have to go through in order to, do these shows.
Correct.
But Justin, why would you need to get inebriated to, hang out with all of these lovely people? We love you the way you are.
I appreciate that. But I love Jack Daniels.
I didn't know you swung that way.
No, all jokes aside, I'm not a whiskey drinker. I do not like whiskey.
Yeah, you are absolutely right, Dark Knight Azareth. If you did add turmeric, that would stain them yellow. Plastic does stain yellow. From experience, I can speak to this. Let's see here. So we're putting on a slightly lighter coat of metallic. We're using Dragon Copper, which is the Bones Copper. It is more red than the Coppery Orange, which is very orange, as its name rightfully implies. It's a little hard to get everything to focus here, but it actually blends in pretty well. Let's see if I can get the underside of this. And I'm not thinning the metallics. Remember, thinning metallics is kind of fraught with peril, but it can actually work with some of the bones metallics because the silvers, specifically in there, are such a fine grind that I have been able to successfully layer with them. I've been able to thin them without them falling out of solution. To the point where I could actually layer with them smoothly, which most metallics you simply cannot. I mean, you could try, have fun trying, but I've never had much luck with them. Instead, what I do is I tend to push them pretty thin, so I have very little on my brush, and I find that then I can sometimes kind of build up layers. Like here's my first layer of copper on the underside of this thing, and I'll take my next layer. I'm going to actually add just like half a brushful, just a tiny bit of water to the paint. I don't want very much at all, but a tiny bit, like maybe 8-to-1 paint to water, not too bad. I'm going to grab it on my brush, and I'm essentially going to unload my brush. I don't want it to pool, just like with layering, I want it pretty smooth. Actually, I think I'm going to use a slightly thinner brush for this. Boom. Reload brush, unload brush. Unloading your brush is as important as loading your brush, by the way.
Well, we couldn't see you unload it, so that's why I'm asking. If you knew that wasn't on camera.
I was not aware that it was not on camera, but I also wasn't trying to necessarily demo. I was trying to just note that you must load your brush, but then you must also unload your brush.
Just making sure.
Unloading is as important as loading. The manner in which you unload actually doesn't matter, so that's why I don't so much care if it's on the camera. I just dab it off on the side of my palette because I'm using a well palette, of course. But you want to unload it so that you can get a smooth stroke. So like here, if I'm going to unload my brush, I want my brush to come to a natural point when I'm done unloading it. I want it to be very sharp, see? And then I want to be able to do really, thin lines that don't have a lot of, that was a globby line to start with. But after that, my paint is very subtle. And I can just do small little areas and fine work. kind of have to be you kind of want to keep a little moisture in your brush if you're going to do this. Wait a second. This is a very small brush to be using for this. Metallics, sometimes it's better to use a slightly bigger brush if you're going to try this, because you can keep more moisture in the body of it. So even though you don't have much paint on it, you've got moisture that's keeping that paint going. Since you are using thicker paint, it can be difficult to get it to play right in a small, thin brush. All right, but you can see on this, and it's hard to get it without the, this is the problem with metallics, guys. It's hard to photo them. But you can hopefully see that toward the outer edge of this plate, things are a little brighter than toward the inside. So this actually is layering up. It's hard to see it because it's the same problem with photoing metallics. When you get the light on it, it's all bright. So there we can kind of see how it's more orangey toward the outer edge. But yeah, and we can continue doing this. Let me bring this up a little bit. I'm going to bring it up with actually another set of highlights. I want this to look like new copper, so I'm going to try adding pearl white to my dragon copper. Because really fresh copper, you know, really bright new copper is very pinkish orange, and it's quite light. So I have a hunch that if I add pearl white into this, I will get an orangey, pinky color. Since the dragon, I think the dragon copper works a little better for that than the coppery orange because it has more red in it. So it's going to go a little more pink. We will see how it goes. This is also using, you know, 2 different metallic flakes, but that's usually just fine. There we go. That's a pink. It's very pink. But it is very coppery. There we go. I actually might do just one more drop. Pearl white is a metallic white, Stealth Ogre. It is useful in highlighting almost every other metallic we make. You also can make awesome like silk and satin colors, like pastel metallics, by adding clear brights to pearl white. Those are the 2 main uses of pearl white. But I made it because I wanted a color that can be used to make highlights for every other metallic. Because that was always a problem. Like I used to see people highlighting gold with silver just because they couldn't get any brighter of a gold. Rose gold, yes, Silverthorn, you are correct, except the problem with rose gold and using it as a highlight for copper is that its flake is not a copper-colored flake. The flake is very obviously a gold flake in rose gold. So, although the color looks right, the gold flake is always going to read more gold than copper would actually read. So that's the downside to the rose gold. It's not really a downside because it is supposed to be rose gold after all, but that is the issue because since, you know, rose gold is a copper alloy, you know, you'd think, there we go, we got a little bit of pink on there. Dr. Bob, limited colors are weird lately. Like, we really did intend for it to be a limited color, but then there was such demand that I think Ed decided to offer it for a longer period of time. I don't know that that will continue. But if anything, I think the audience is probably happier to find that it is not limited for those who really like it. It's technically still a special edition paint, so whether it continues, there we go, now you can see my happy copper. Whether it continues or not, I'm not sure. Our 9600 SKUs are not supposed to be in general release. That's kind of why they have a separate SKU. But we're revamping like things with paint. We're trying to like try some different things. We're trying to, you know, do a few different new tactics and techniques, and so we'll see how it is moving forward. I know that they're trying to design a new paint rack for Bones, I think. If I recall, maybe even a new paint rack for Core. Not that that matters unless you have a local game store that carries it. The problem with painting metallics is that it's hard to make them show up right on camera. But now I'm adding brighter highlights, and hopefully you guys can see a bit.
What's the rumor there, Silverthorn?
Silverthorn Heartthrob Pink is extremely limited because we are so far behind. It technically, I believe, was finished labeled yesterday. It got put off because there were more urgent colors. But there's only one batch, and I don't even know that the full batch was done. So if you get one, you're lucky. And that's just the way that is. Samples were deemed less important than the paint department catching up.
Is it true that the rose gold given at the Kickstarter party was slightly different than the
Nope, I don't think so.
same formula, right?
Yeah, should be the same formula.
I thought so.
Often if Reaper does party stuff and we need a special paint for the party, we'll grab whatever. If there is a special paint of the moment, and that was the rose gold, we will just say, hey, we've got a bunch of this. Let's just make a bit more. I think part of that with the Kickstarter party was Ed responding to there being so much positive feedback about the rose gold. People really liked it. And so he's like, well, let's throw this in. There you go, guys. You can see it, right? It's so hard to get metallics to show up on camera, but you should be able to see the blend now from darker to lighter, and that's starting to look really copper to me.
Do you want to zoom in?
I don't think zooming in is going to help. I really don't think it is. I actually like that I can hold it back here and get the light exactly right, but we can try. Do you want me to lower this?
Here, let me try this first.
All right, there you go. And it's a little blurry now.
Well, I can get it back in focus.
It's just so hard to photo this. All right, here we go. That looks pretty good. Coppery. Yay, coppery. K. Malsum, your hand will get steadier, but make sure that you do a few things to increase your building. Essentially, it speeds up your building your brush control. So the main thing is when your hand isn't steady enough, because nobody's hand is steady enough when they start. The main thing is to always make sure your hands are in a comfortable position and to brace your hands. I brace my hands on each other. I brace my wrists on the table. Whatever is comfortable. Some people use a cushion on their lap to brace their wrists. Or you can brace on the sides of your rib cage. You know, a lot of guys do that because they're leaning back in their chair when they paint. The other key point is always keep your brush moving in the same direction roughly. You can vary within like a 90-degree arc, but always try to do the same brush stroke. If you are, instead of just like doing this or trying to come at it from under here or maybe come at it, don't move your brush, move the model. If you need to if you need to reach into a little spot, don't do this. Move the model until you can hit the spot comfortably. Keep your hand in a comfortable position, use a repetitive brush stroke, and this will essentially make you build muscle memory on painting, which is the more important thing. I mean, steady your arm against something only goes so far. What you're really trying to do is build muscle memory, because that's what lets you hit eyeballs and little buckles and things like that. And the muscle memory is strong enough that to override things like, just general shakiness. I have a friend who has essentially like a brain lesion, neurological problem, and she still shakes a bit, but the muscle memory put her in much better position than she would have thought. Like she's not succumbed quite as badly to the shakes as she suspected she wouldn't be able to paint at all, and actually she's still quite decent. So let's see here. I think I'm going to actually highlight a little bit more. I want a little bit lighter, but you guys can see that it is very coppery. Very coppery. And then technically I probably shouldn't have blended up toward the edges. I should just hit the edges with this bright copper, because that's where the rub off would be, like from swords hitting his pauldrons and stuff would be on the edges. So we'll just hit that with the real bright copper. Our bright pink orange, make it really show up there. There, it looks like it's been scraped off. That's great. And then this little stud, I think, also gets some. Yeah. Yeah, I guess this is also where I can do my Patreon promotion. I actually did a tips for increasing your brush control faster Patreon thing on my Patreon, which is patreon.com/paintingbig. I do all sorts of PDFs and videos on there, and it's more structured than this is. And the PDFs are super fun. So go check it out if you want. I've got some free content up, and I've even got a list of the past year's content, so you can see if there are subjects that intrigue you. And thank you to everybody in chat who already is a patron. Thank you so much. All right. Yeah, muscle memory is a beautiful thing, and it really is the key to miniature painting. It's why you get steadily better when you paint more. your control will get better. As long as you're not trying to, like, it just gets better faster if you concentrate on keeping your hand relaxed and moving your brush in a consistent direction. That's the way. If you're impatient, you know, buckle down and make yourself think about what you're doing and try to keep those two rules in mind. Because if you're impatient and you want to build it faster, that's the thing. I know a lot of people are impatient. They want to paint awesome eyeballs right away. No, Ed should have a Patreon for miniature ballistics. He absolutely should. Thanks, Kaz. Thanks, Planer. And Painting Dog. And all of the coos with the painting bigs. Yes. All right. So that's looking really nice and coppery, actually. Copper is a very different feel to it. Now let's actually, now this other shoulder pad is dried, I can also use the same colors over there and see if the green makes a difference. Because I did leave a little bit of brown in the shadows here. So if I leave a little green in the shadows, it's probably going to read that it's going to feel like we just have a head start on our verdigris. But yeah, it's really hard to blend with this scorched metal because it covers so well. So even if I really push it and thin it down on my brush, it's hard to get it to show through any of the background color, which is great. It's a great coverage. It's rare to find really good coverage in metallics because of the way the flakes function, but this one has it. Boop. I'm going to leave the green down in the cracks of the dents and such up here, though. I think it's exclamation point Patreon. What is it? Planar Crossroads did an exclamation point painting big, and it didn't.
Let's see. Let me check and make sure.
Gimli, essentially green, what Bryce suggested, which is one of our guest painters who's actually in chat, is a lot of people say that you should, if you want, with copper, you can put down either brown or green because that it'll change the color of the copper. And I wasn't sure it would because I'm using a very high coverage base paint, the Scorched Metal, 9125 up here on the thingy. But I have to say, at least it looks different out the gate right now, so we'll see if it continues to. But yeah, the whole process of using a green underneath your copper is because when copper corrodes, it goes green, and sometimes blue. So essentially, by using a green undercoat, you're suggesting that color if you're planning to do a more corroded copper. And then when you add more green later on, it should play off of that. Because I will add more green, because usually copper verdigris goes up pretty light, which is why we have this copper verdigris paint here that I'm going to be using also. But I often start with the peacock green because it's a nice dark bluish green, so it can read very well for that. For old bronze, honestly, the best one that works with that is tarnished brass, Dr. Bob, 9198. Our brasses are, I mean, the brass color is really versatile, the tarnished brass. It could be a dark gold, it could be a bronze. I find it works pretty well as a highlight for old bronze, to be a bronze. There's also dragon bronze, which if you want a colder bronze with a different flake, I recommend that as well. You could put that over old bronze quite successfully. There we go. So I'm going to say, yeah, I mean, I need to finish it out with a pinker color like this, but so far, I mean, I am leaving some of that green showing through, so that is making a difference. Yes, correct, Goobs. The Statue of Liberty is green because of copper. But copper does tarnish in a lot of different ways. It really depends on where the copper is and what environmental conditions it's been subjected to. So you can get a very blue verdigris on copper sometimes, but more often it is that green. What are the brightest of each flake color? Technically it'd be the gold and the silver are going to be the brightest. We've got some more toned down flake colors, but as far as, I mean, they're all intense, but if you mean the lightest flake, then it would be the silver, obviously. So really I need to know, Future Ruble, if you mean brightest or lightest or what, because brightest to me means saturation, and as far as intense color goes, that would probably mean our new gold flake in the bones colors, which would mean dragon gold, which is a very, very bright gold. It's very saturated. Or are we discussing food now? Diets? Please don't get me on diets. I'm trying to tweak mine right now because I was on keto. And then I went off of keto for a low carb and I'm having issues. So I'm like, do I need to go back to keto? Not sure. Kind of looking into options right now. Reaper Collins, you jumping on the seafood diet? You see it and you eat it? You're a lucky man. I cannot do that. I have definite foods I react to. So all of my dietary things that I did, which of course resulted in a lot of weight loss for me, were entirely fueled by my digestive disorders. So it was not just jumping on a fad train. It was actually like my doctor said, you should try this. And it was good, so I stayed on it. Yeah, a lot of people have trouble with, you're right, Corby, and people, that isn't publicized a lot, but a lot of people do have problems with certain vegetables, so it's not always the same ones either. Yeah, spinach can hit me funny too, depending on if it's raw or cooked and how much of it there is. And then I have big trouble with tomatoes. Can't have tomatoes at all. All right, I'm going to do something, and I'm going to see. I'm going to actually add some green to this dent on the other side and see if it looks more like the same color then. Or see if I really get a difference. All right, we're going to layer this up. Yeah, I think I went through 5 or 6 surgeries because of digestive issues, so it may be delicious, but if I can't eat it, I ain't eating it. Been tomato-free for quite a while now. And yeah, it means I can't eat pizza like everybody else. Oh well, probably better for my diet anyway. We're adding in some of our dragon copper on top of our scorched metal now to bring it up to the same way that it looks there. And we are getting a different color. Notice this, by the way. We are getting a different shift for putting the green undercoat on versus the other undercoat. But it could easily be because I left some of the green showing on this side and I left some of the brown showing on that side. We'll see as we continue. I still want to bring this up all the way where I brought that up, and then we can judge. Only, wow, less than $300 away, or 300 pounds away anyway, from the South Australia support. If you have not supported and gotten yourself some cute koalas, feel free to go over there. Yeah, keto really fixed all my issues, Silverthorn. I mean, except for it can be difficult on your bowel a little bit, depending. I had it dialed in pretty well, but I thought because I wanted to be able to go out and travel a little bit easier, because keto does make it a little harder to do that. You have to kind of be ready for it and bring some food with you. I went on a low carb, kind of low carb Mediterranean variant. And unfortunately, I have gained some of the weight back, and my guts are definitely not as happy. Like my stomach is not as happy. So I am thinking about going back on keto, because really I was on it for 2 years. I lost a crap ton of weight and I felt great. So might just do it and just take the blow when I travel and go off diet and then go back on it. I mean, that is an option. Yeah, I have only good things to say about keto. It actually improved my skin and I lost like 60 pounds, so. No complaints there. Just hard to travel with is my biggest complaint on keto. Yep, sorry, who was on the question? But yeah, this one, for this one, unlike the silver yesterday, when we did the steel on his breastplate here, there I started very light, and then I layered down with stippling a lot of different dark colors and then I layered back up with some of the brighter metallics to bring up the edges and suggest some points where the tarnish is worn off. So on the copper, we're going in the opposite direction. We're going from dark to light to add some depth. Oh, that sounds rough, MG photo. Yeah, there is a lot of green and gold. And it depends on the content, like other metals. It depends, because, a lot of Egyptian gold is very red, or looks that way. And it depends on what other metals are around it, and how pure the gold is, and what materials are around it. Like, because gold reflects, just like other metals, it'll reflect your surrounds. So, yeah, but Bryce is, it'd be safe to call you a metallics and a metal expert, wouldn't it, Bryce? You're darn good at it. I mean, I guess Jeff Bowden is also the gold NMM like guru, but one of them. Lately, I've just been putting a lot more yellow into my gold. Holy mold line. Yeah, Big J. For these test models, I don't take the mold lines off. Because these guys aren't being painted for the Reaper Showcase or anything. They're just being painted to demo stuff. And I can't sit and finish every model that I paint for demo because I have actual models that Ron needs me to paint before release. So, yeah. So, all right. So we're building up our Dragon Copper like we did over there. Maybe even a little more solid. I'll build it up a little bit more over here. But yeah, I'm going to say we have a slightly different tone. I need to add the highlights over here, though. So let's get some of our, actually I added a little bit more pearl white to that. So let me grab my Dragon Copper, which I will actually replace because we're not using coppery orange. I'm going to add a little bit more copper to my mix over here. This is a mix of Dragon Copper, clog. The metallics do tend to do that. Metallic-based latex is so fast. So if you get a clog in your metallic, do not fret. Just reach for your pokey tool. It happens. Rinse off your pokey tool. You don't want your paint to build up on your pokey tool too much. And you can always take an X-Acto knife and kind of clean off your pokey tool too. This one actually really needs that. All right, now I should get some copper. There we go. Yay! We'll put Dragon Copper down there because that's what we're actually using. And we'll do that. And we'll throw our pearl white on there too, so you guys can see colors that we're using. I don't want to get too much in the frame. Let's see here. This is true. Technically, it's TIM. NMM. I'm not familiar with that acronym. This is all metallics over a non-metallic base coat. It's green on the one side, peacock green, and ruddy leather on the other side. And there's no wet blending, but I am layering up over various colors. We started with the scorched metal, which is quite dark, and then I'm layering up the Dragon Copper, and then a mix of Dragon Copper and pearl white, MWC War. So really layering with metallics. You don't get perfect layers, but I'm bringing it up this way to show you guys the color progression. I am going to put just a tiny bit of water in at this point. Remember, you have to be really careful adding water. You can distort the color of metallics if they start to fall out of solution, and you can lose some of the brightness of the flake. So just if you do put water in, just a tiny bit. Oh, because of Ed? Yeah, well, I can believe that. Although technically I always start the stream by saying everything is Ron's fault, so I don't know if that goes with Reaper Canon, Reaper John. Pretty sure that Ed would throw Ron under the bus for that. Or probably me. He would reach for a handy and plausible scapegoat. Ed is good at that. All right. So there we've got some brighter stuff. It is really hard to get this to show up without, I almost have to tilt it away from the camera so you can see. So you can see the blending isn't that smooth. The metallic shine helps disguise it a bit. There you go. And I can thin my paint a little bit, but with metallics, it's very hard to get smooth blends. Like I said, the Bones metallics with the silver actually are layerable. You can thin them because their flake is really fine, and it doesn't fall out of solution as fast. I almost need more. I don't know, because I was kind of on a metallics roll. I thought about doing some gold, but I don't know about Monday. If I do something from home, I might do something completely different, because we are thinking about still testing the remote shows on Mondays. Like have me stream from home on Monday morning, just to continue to test the setup, make sure that it's stable, and such wise. So yeah, that's bringing up that color. But yeah, metallics are difficult to photograph for the same reason they're difficult to show on camera. And you can see that I added a little bit of highlight around the bottom of the divot here, just like I did on the front when I was trying to make that little divot there show up right here. So two very different takes on metallics, layering up from dark and layering down from bright base coat. I do tend to like to do steel this way though. Copper, if I was doing this with copper, I'd probably have to start with coppery orange because it's the lighter of the two coppers. I might be able to pull off dragon copper as my base. That's a hard call. Maybe a mix of the two. Maybe we'll try that.
Do you think you'll be doing more metallics on Monday?
That's what they asked, and I was just like, I'm not sure, because if we're streaming from home, I might choose a model that I've got at home, and it may not be optimal for that. I don't have a lot of metallics at home.
We got a bucket of both over here.
I actually grabbed a bunch of that stuff. That's what's at home right now, actually. I looted it. Yes, I did. Let's actually try that. Let's just grab some coppery orange and try to do the same things we did yesterday. What time do we have a lot of time? Probably not. No, we don't.
It's 11:56.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll try it and see if it dries fast enough to do this. Just going to lay. You can see that the coppery orange is much more orange than the other copper. But yeah, I find that steel works best from the top-down approach because it is lighter, so you have a lot of leeway to drop it with adding a lot of glazes of different colors. Whereas when you start with a color that's kind of in the middle here, where it's not as light as the steel or the silver, you don't get as much room to bring it down. There comes a point where you're smothering it pretty fast and you didn't get all of the colors and layers in that you'd like. So we'll see. I'm going to actually try it though, after we go and make sure I've got, yeah, okay, so yeah, I would say these are very similar colors, and the fact that I left the green showing through is making it, I would say that it's the fact that I left some of the green showing through that's changing the color here, rather than the actual metallic looking different because it's over green. That's my cautious, like, assessment. Just looking at the way it's highlighting, kind of looking at the way it looks. They do look very similar. Maybe it's a tiny bit colder over here. Anne's choice. Anne's choice for what I teach on Monday. Is that the thing? It is always Anne's choice. HM Road Dog, if I wasn't layering or trying to layer, I might use medium. But if I'm trying to pull it thinner and layer with it like I am here, I prefer water, just like with all the other MSP paints. It's just a weird thing. Like, you could probably thin with medium. I just never tend to like the way that medium makes the paint act if I'm using thinned applications. It's kind of weird to try to describe it. It gives it kind of a gummy consistency to me that I don't like and I'm not good with. I'm much more accustomed to using just straight water to thin our paints, and so I'm accustomed to the way the paint acts when I add it. And if I try to switch that up, then I've got to kind of relearn a little bit, and it's just not my favorite thing. So that's why I tend to use just water. I just use just a little bit of it. But yeah, when I was doing applications on the front here where I was building up layers of this tarnish and dirt and grime, yeah, absolutely, I was using gloss sealer instead of, as a medium, instead of using just water. You bet. We do not have a free for this show, not until we have 1,000 of you guys on Discord, and then Planer, in her ultimate generosity, will sponsor a giveaway for this show. Although, if you are simply exercising your hashtag free to keep yourselves in practice so you don't forget it for other shows, then go for it. There. All right, so let's see if we can put some goop on this coppery orange. There are free hugs, absolutely. Hugs are always free. They should be anyway. If anybody tried to, monetize hugs, we should all rise up against them. All right, I'm going to grab some black and brown. I'm going to grab some, I've got my peacock green. I'm going to make my mix that I made yesterday, which is 1 drop of the paint color, or in this case, 1 brushful because I'm lazy. And then 4 drops of gloss sealer. Boom, 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 boom. And then usually you want a little bit of metallic flake in there if you're doing like grime and stuff, but verdigris directly corrodes the surface, so you don't want to see metal through it. So I would not use, I would not add a little metallic with this as I tend to add for others. Okay. So we do grab it and we do up. I do want a brush that's more coarse than this, however. Let's grab this one. And we're going to dab and build it up. Start building up weathering stuff down here in the cracks. We'll start with kind of a dirty look and then we'll add the green. Just want to see how I can progress with this, because copper does tend to tarnish brown before it goes green, and then it tends to go green specifically where moisture has built up. Oh, let's see, here's okay, good. Just checking that I am not missing anybody's questions. Boom, boom, boom. All right, so we've got some brown tarnish kind of built up on that surface. And now I want the green to go down in this central area here. So I may actually put a little more green in that because it really got a little bit more subtle than I wanted it. So some dark green. Got way too much paint on my brush. Where can I dab it off? You want to dab it off on some sort of surface. I dabbed it off on a little sticky note I've got. You just want to be putting down kind of a thinned application that you're building up. So some green down the middle. I'm going to take my lighter colors now and mix them into my peacock green. So verdigris, I think. I generally use the same brushes for metallics as I do for anything else, Andre. It's more that I want specific shapes for weathering metallics. So I usually use a bit of a wider brush. Though I don't have a lot of room on these shoulder pads. Well, I need a pokey tool again. Pokey tool! My verdigris has stuck. There I am. There. I'm giving the pokey tool a workout today. Doo-doo. All right. We'll just try to get at least a little bit of verdigris on there. Hey, Evil Elvis. Glad you made it before the end, although we are starting to tie up at this point. Let me do a 50-50 mix of the copper verdigris and the peacock. which makes a really pretty color actually. Hold on, because I want a slightly darker, I don't want to just go from the dark peacock to the bright verdigris. I want to kind of go through a stage in between. All right, and let's actually put a little bit of like lighter green in there. Again, I like to speckle it and do it kind of in patches. And you want it to go where there's going to be moisture pooling, so right down that central groove is where you want it. This is pretty subtle. Actually, the camera is not picking this up very well. It's so hard to photo. Don't even know what setting I would need to get to make this show up better than it is.
Any brightness?
I don't know. It's really, yeah, it's kind of, the problem is that half of it is reflection, and there it is. You can kind of see it. I'm working it up. Half of it is reflection, and half of it is just the camera's maybe not quite dialing in to where it needs to be. I want some of this darker color to mix in. Eh. It's just not looking as good on camera as it is in person, and that just happens. Let's add a little bit of our regular verdigris. We're almost done anyway. So yeah, when you're doing copper verdigris, just like when you're doing the sludge and stuff that we did on this side, you want to concentrate on where moisture is going to pool, especially with, water is what oxidizes for the most part. So that big groove is where all moisture and mist and fog and rain is going to be pooling and pouring off of him, so it's the most likely. There, that's a little bit better. Thanks, Justin. That looks better. So yeah, all right. Now I just need a little bit of my top verdigris, and wherever it cakes up, like verdigris kind of builds up in layers, so wherever it's most thick, build it up with lighter, higher colors. There we go. Let's see. So that buildup, that went very light, so I kind of liked it better when it was a little darker, although the camera is showing it much lighter than it is. But I'll just grab a little bit of peacock. If you really feel like you've gone too light with your verdigris, just grab a little bit of peacock green and just brush it lightly over the top. Just a little bit of a glaze of it. And that will give you, that'll take it down just a notch so that it looks like good. Yeah, so there you go. Like lots of divots and bumps in his armor where the verdigris is starting to build up. It is losing a little bit of that color, which is sad, but it happens. But yeah, so there's your building up verdigris. And if you want more, you can just extend it out, no problem. And if you want it to look really, well, the copper equivalent of rusted out, you can make almost the whole thing verdigris and just have the edges scraping off. But feel free to get as crazy as you want. So yeah, the NMM copper verdigris color does work just fine. I just, like I said, I like to have some variance in the color of my verdigris, so I use peacock green and then I mix in the verdigris to bring it out. So yeah, that's how you do that. And those... And like I said, you can do some blue too. You could use cyan blue as the blue I would use. Mix white with it if you want it a little lighter. Do a big splotch of corrosion right up there where it would pool in that crack. Just for fun. Metallics are fun. I didn't find metallics fun at all until I started like corroding them and doing all sorts of weathering on them, then I liked them again. So yeah, so we've got some green creeping up the side here. And the stippling brush effect you do want because it gives you the irregular texture. It's good, like in all other things, when you're trying to get something to look realistic, it's always good to look up an example of tarnished copper. In reality, probably I wouldn't get this bright. If it's this tarnished and this verdigris, it probably would get a darker brown first. There was a cool website I found once that showed the various stages of tarnishing with copper, where it showed how it changed color toward brown and then showed how it started to corrode with the greens and blues. So I'm going to actually take down the orange a little bit on this because I think that's going to give it a more realistic effect. The orange should really be more toward the edges. There we go. So that's a little bit better. It's a little more brown. Knock down that orange a little bit. And I'm using scorched metal to knock it down, by the way. And then grab our pink color, our pinky copper color, and grab the edges. So to give it more of that copper edge thing. So yeah, so there we go. That would look pretty good, like actually almost anywhere. So yeah. No, the head is not a separate piece. So all right, guys, I think we're going to wrap that for today, since the show went a little bit long. We have a lot of programming today. So we have Sadie with Painting Platinum. She's working her way through Learn to Paint Kit 2, the Layer Up Paint Kit at 3 p.m. Central Time. And then we also have the always interesting and, I don't know, what other adjective would you use to describe Ed and Ron?
Train wreck.
The always interesting to watch because you never know what will happen, Reaper Live. And that's at 6 p.m. Central, right?
Yes, it is.
Alrighty. Chaotic, yes, that's good. Lively, chaotic, those are good words. Those are good words. Frightening, yes, Pendrake, often. This is true. Yes, indeedy. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, folks. I had fun. I actually like copper. I wish that there was more copper out there to paint, really. A lot of people just do copper armor just because they feel like it. Why not, right? But yeah, it's an underused metal, and I like it a lot because you can add a lot to it. Hilarious. Well, that's a good one. Oh, making fun of Ed and Ron is half the game, Gimli.
Oh, absolutely.
Beautiful disaster. I think you win, Albavezin. All right.
All right, I got a raid set up for us here.
All right. All right. I don't have enough. We don't have, but I feel like I'm doing this all the time. Achilles Blade. Like, I have a whole new respect for streamers, like video game streamers. Oh my gosh, how do they do this for hours? All right, who are we rating?
Valandar the Red. He's a frequent watcher of ours.
Yes, he is. We see Valandar all the time. Is he ready for us?
No, probably not.
All right, let's surprise him, guys.
Yeah, spread the
Let's
Reaper
surprise
love
him.
and keep being awesome. And we will see you at, or I will see you at 3 o'clock today.
Yes, 3 o'clock.
Thanks, guys.
Tune in for Sadie's show, the chat room, Sadie's show. Some Orcs and Rose Gold. That would be a Sadie request.
See you guys.
See you later.